YouTube, I wanted to do a summary of my July reading. I wanted to do, I had all the intention of doing a wrap up, a weekly wrap up last week, and I even had vacation time scheduled. I was going to have a nice vacation, but I unfortunately got some kind of stomach bug, so I didn't end up doing much of anything. But at least I had already had planned to take some time off, so that was nice. But yeah, so I've read a bunch of books since then, but I'm gonna I guess pick and choose of what I've read since over the last week and a half, 2 weeks. Because again, if I don't do the weekly wrap ups, it just gets out of control where I feel like overwhelmed, and I don't want to feel overwhelmed. So yes, so as for like the summary of what I read, I have it all tallied here on my handy dandy notebook. So I read a total of 40 books in the month of July, and 21 of them were books that I were pulling from my shelves, and 19 were either audiobooks but predominantly ebooks. And then I hauled bought 7 books, and I unhauled 1 book. I actually already got rid of it. That like I DNF'd, and that was one of the books for Jane Austen July. Was Jane Austen Marriage Manual. I just didn't care for that one at all. But for the books I hauled, I know several of these I've shown you. These 4 here, I've already shown you on a previous video. But in case you haven't watched that one, I'll just briefly show them with you now. These are books I've gotten from little free libraries. Babysitter's Club comic book, and then East of Eden, which I'm hoping to get to in August, because I feel like it lends itself to a summer book. And then I know I've talked about this before. Yeah, I got this in the mail. This is Katie Lumpston's new book from Books and Things. I will leave a link in the description below to her channel, but this was perfect for Jane Austen July. And so anyway, I got this book in the mail, and then I literally started reading it that very first minute as soon as I got it out of the box, because I was that excited about it. Let's see, so I got a error message here saying, oh, my battery is running low, so I gotta hurry up here. Okay, the other 2 books, I got this one from another little free library, but this is the book that I never thought I would see, because it's been on my Goodreads want to read list when I heard about it years ago, but I had no idea what the likelihood of it was for me to find it, but here I am finding it free. But No Bad Dogs, The Woodhouse Way by Barbara Woodhouse. And it's like the lady with the dogs. It's familiar to millions of Americans through her appearances on 60 Minutes. Popular BBC TV show Training Dogs, The Woodhouse Way. I am not familiar with her TV show, but and I can't exactly remember who I heard this from. It might have been Steve Donahue, maybe, from years ago. I can't exactly remember. But it sounded intriguing. And so happy to have found that one. And this one I found at the dollar store. And this was perfect for Christmas in July, because it's a Christmas book. It's the Hallmark published book, The Christmas Company by Alice Murray. And I got it for $1, so win there. And it came out in 2018. I know Hallmark Publishing, they no longer publish books. I think it ended in 2022 or 2023 recently, but I'm like, oh, I'm sad about it, because I liked reading their Christmas books. I've tried watching their Christmas movies, and maybe I'm just picking bad ones, but they're kind of cringy. So if you like Hallmark movies, let me know if you have any favorites, because I'll for sure add them to my list, because I really like the books that they published. So yeah, there's that one. So not too bad with the book hauls, because I read one as soon as I got it, and then I've already read this one. So really, I just have these, 5 here. So not too bad for a whole month. Okay, so speaking of the 2 readathons, I wanted to touch base on what I ended up reading for them. So for Christmas in July, I finished. I knew I had put out a TBR, and I read all of them except the Mary Kate Andrews Santa suit. I'm gonna save that for in December. I actually ended up reading another book by Mary Kate Andrews, this one here, for one of her summer books, Change of Scene. But I didn't actually care for it that much, unfortunately, because just because of the topics that were discussed, because I like summer beach reads for, the light fun, and this involved cancer and the diagnosis and like death of a family member, but all that, I'm just like, oh, not what I guess went in wanting from this book, with this like the palm trees and all that. And it's focused on LA and a woman who is in the movie making business, and so that's all intriguing. Just like I was like, oh, maybe it's just me and not the book. I maybe that's what it is, because I typically really like her books. So okay, going back to the books I did read for Christmas in July: The House Without a Christmas Tree by Gail Rock. I know I was talking maybe in the comments with Storm Reads maybe about like how much Christmas is in some of these books. This one had a lot of Christmas because the little girl in here really wanted a Christmas tree in her house, and her dad refused. And you as a reader, especially as an adult reader, you know why, because he's a widow, and so you can kind of get a feel for it's because it's making him think about his dead wife. But yes, there's lots of Christmas there. The girl's a little bit annoying, it's just badgering him constantly. But you understand, as a little kid wanting a Christmas tree when everyone else does and she doesn't. A Country Christmas by Bonnie Lou Risby. This had almost no Christmas at all in it except for the last chapter. It's about a family in the Great Depression, and it's all about them managing and to make do, like random little jobs that they can do to earn some money or get some food in. Luckily, they live in a country where they can, produce a lot of their food. So there was that. But then, Christmas comes around, and like, how are they gonna have any kind of present or any like nice fancy food even, so. But this was a really quick read, and it was good, except for the misleading there with the cover and the title. But then one chapter on Christmas, it didn't even talk about Christmas leading up to it. Like it wasn't like the family was worried about it the entire time. It just like it comes up, and then then they're like, oh, how we're gonna do this, but it was all wrapped up and managed in a chapter. So A Covington Christmas by Joan Medlicott. I know I've already talked about this one, but I just wanted to wrap up all the books that I ended up reading for Christmas in July. This one was okay. It's about 5 different couples who they found out all of a sudden, years, decades after they were married, that they actually weren't married because the pastor wasn't ordained or certified. So all their marriages were invalid. So they all have to now get remarried. Like some of them are questioning, would I, remarry this person, after all this time, like knowing what I know now. So it has a lot of that in there. And then A Last Resort, a Scottish bakehouse mystery by Gail Roper. Is there 2 Gails in here? I think so. Yeah, Gail Rock. But for Gail Roper, this one is set in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and so not actually in Scotland. But everyone's like snowed in with these like blizzards, and there are these famous people that are coming to town, and they get snowed in, and they're not prepared for it, like clothing wise or anything. And then there's a murder that takes place, and the celebrities and the bakehouse are all getting pulled in to solve it. And this had a lot of like just the winter alone gives you like the cozy Christmas vibes, just that in and of itself. But yeah, I did like this one, although the mystery and all that, it didn't fully enrapture me and like, oh, I gotta find out what happens next. It was a little bit more removed from that, but for a cozy mystery, this fits the bill for sure. And then for some ebooks that I read, and I know I've already talked about this one, but I just wanted to like show all the books I know I just said that, share with you all the Christmas books that I ended up reading. This one is taking place in, what was it, Melbourne or Brisbane? I can't remember now. In Australia, like, the sunny, warm Australia. And then in Colorado, in Boulder, Colorado, and in London. So you have like 3, it's like the holiday movie. But instead of 2 couples, there's 3 couples, and they're all trading place. All the women trade places. They're best friends from childhood. And this was just too easy though, because like the very first or second day of them being there, they meet their soulmate, each of them. And the one other critique is that they all started blending together. Like all the men, them like the perfect men, all of them, like they could have all been the same man. And some of the storylines for the women, like the women, there's only 1 or 2 that stood out of the 3. And it was like one of them was always blending in with the other. So yeah, it just, I don't know. It would have been better, I feel like, with just 2 couples. Maybe she had to put 3 in because of the holiday, and so she didn't want to be too much like that. Snow Place for Murder by Diane Kelly. This is the Mountain Lodge Mystery Book 3. It says A Vacation on Thin Ice, and I really like this one. It features a cat named Yeti, and Yeti gets her own chapters, but it's like, 1 or 2 pages where the cat even witnesses, part of the murder mystery, and gives the reader a little bit more insight on it, which I thought was interesting. While the main character is sleeping, the cat's awake, so she's just looking out the window and can see what's going on. But it's set, there's a ski lodge, and there's a whole group coming to town because they want to buy the land right beside this bed and breakfast. And at first, are these good guys or not? Because, and the owner herself is, debating, does she want someone's gigantic resort coming right beside her and taking all the nature and, building something there and adding more traffic and people and whatnot. So it was an interesting take with that. But, there's a murder, and, you have all the suspects. They're all kind of like stuck there. They're not necessarily snowed in. They are snowed in off and on throughout the book, but I thought it was interesting. It wasn't like your normal, like, locked room mystery, that kind of thing, because they could have got away at several points. But, it's more of like, I feel like more true to nature, especially because it's set in North Carolina, so it's not like, like the UP, the Upper Peninsula, where you're in Michigan, where you're just guaranteed snow at all times. So, it doesn't melt, at some points, so you're not stuck there. Christmas Letters by Debbie Maycomer. I listened to this one on audiobook, and this is about a couple who it's like the hate to love, and it was just okay. The Christmas Letters didn't, at least on the audiobook, I didn't really pick up on a lot of focus on actual Christmas letters. It was more of them like butting heads. And then I started like with the constant butting heads, I'm like, should you be together? I wonder. And then let's see. Then the last Christmas in July book is A Cowboy Christmas Guardian by Dana Mentick. This is a love-inspired suspense, Gold Country Cowboys, and the Gold Country for sure takes center stage here because the woman in this story, she is a not a geologist, but she her job is like going into the mines or like evaluating the soil and rocks to see if there's any gold or any like minerals or precious minerals, things like that. And so she is investigating a mine that the landowner doesn't want her there at all, but the mine itself is owned by a different group. And so she can go on the mine, but she can't be on his property. So, at some points, like, the cops are pulled in because she's on his property, like, trespassing, but she's doing her job. So, but this book is a bit harrowing because they go in the mine multiple times, and there's a cowboy that's, like, the love interest, and he kind of, like, feels obligated at first to help her. He doesn't want her going in alone because, it's an abandoned mine. So, and there's things that happen, like, the floor falls out from under them. They get dropped into, like, the icy cold lake water. Things that become pitch black, like they lose their lanterns and flashlights. They get lost. Being a suspense, there's dead bodies. So much has happened. They lose consciousness at some point. Like, a bridge breaks down. Like, this was a lot. So if you have any, I don't know, fear of caves and all that, maybe stay away from this one. But I really like the atmosphere of this one, and I've read several of her Dana Mentick's work before, and I really do like her writing. Let's see here. Okay, so those are all the Christmas books. I swear this video so hopefully won't be too long. So yeah, I read 9 books for Christmas in July, and then for Jane Austen July I read 6 books. And so I read Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This is a reread for me. I feel like these kind of books don't need any kind of introduction by me, but I really like this edition. I ended up listening to this one on an audiobook. I think it's only the second time I've listened to it on audiobook, but I really recommend like the annotated edition by Patricia Meyer Spax. She's the one who like makes the notes for the annotations. And then The Friendly Jane Austen by Natalie Tyler. This cover is so goofy. I can't get over the cover. It's like hanging me up every time I look at it. Something about her nose, I feel like, is what it is. But this is all sorts of trivia and interviews and biography of Jane Austen, and not just her, but it gives you like a rundown of all of her family members and the time in which she lived, and then it also discusses all of her writing. So yeah, I would really recommend this if you wanted like a multi like trivia kind of book like this. And then I read Jane Austen's Letters by Deidre LaFay. I know I've already reviewed this one, but for me, it just like I feel like I need to know more about Jane Austen to really like this. I think I would have cared more for an edited version. Would have been better for me for this. And then I also read Persuasion and Northanger Abbey as well. And this Northanger Abbey is like with the Gothic house and all that, inspired by, I can't remember the name of the book that it was inspired by, but I've never tried reading that one because I'm like completely put off of it by reading Jane Austen's book, like how she's making fun of it. I feel like I can never sit down and seriously take that book in serious consideration. And then I also read Persuasion. Okay, so let me see. I know I had on my TBR the Watsons and Sanditon, but because both of them aren't completed works of Jane Austen, and I read like a synopsis of it from this book, I don't know, I couldn't commit myself to reading those two like unfinished works. Maybe next Jane Austen I'll feel more in the mood then. Let me see here. Okay, so those are all those books. Those are the 2 readathons that I did. And there's a couple other books I guess I'll mention that I've read since I last spoke to you. This is a children's book I found. Pond Watching with Anne Morgan, edited by Michael Elson Ross and illustrated by Wendy Smith. And this is like from a Little Free Library. And it's a children's like picture book. But I really liked it because I never heard of Anne Morgan before. But she was like a biologist of ponds, like freshwater ponds, and it gives you like her life story, and then also like if you wanted to investigate ponds in your backyard or your local park or something, then it tells you ways of doing it. But there's like tons of little pretty drawings and things like that. And how you study nature. It's like study nature, not books. It's funny enough what this book is telling you, but that's what Anna herself learned. And here she is right here when she was at Cornell. And so she became a professor, and she got all of her education way back when that wasn't a thing back then. But I'm trying to think, what year was she born? Is it? I know it tells me here somewhere. Yeah, she was born in 1882. So like back then, women weren't getting like PhDs, especially in science. So I really liked her story, and I wonder if there's like an adult book that would have more information. But yeah, I wanted to highlight this one. And let me see here. Was there any other ebooks that I had? Sorry, I'm a bit scattered, but I have books. You should see my floor. I have books sprinkled everywhere. Let me see here. Oh, so for some children's books, I read Beverly Cleary, Henry and Rivesby. I guess I wrote pretty much, except for a few books, showing you everything that I read these last 2 weeks. But this book, I reread all of the Ramona Quimby books earlier this year, and so I wanted to keep reading Beverly Cleary, and so I decided to go with the Henry Huggins series, and I had never read this before, unless I read them as a kid, and I just don't remember that. But this is book 3, I want to say, and Rivesby is his dog, and this cover here, him and his dog, like, it's weird because it's weird in a way, because I feel like this is a book more of its time, because him and his dog are constantly, the dog is constantly getting in trouble because he doesn't have a fenced-in yard, and he doesn't seem to ever have his dog on leash. So the dog is just running wild and like antagonizing the cat or people on the street, the garbage men, things like that. So that was a bit. I'm glad we have leash laws now. Cause I know I've mentioned it before. Like what's frustrating for me is like walking my dog. Sometimes like just this like since I haven't spoken in like 2 weeks over books. I know like a week and a half ago I was walking my dog. And across the street, on a busy street, there was a woman with standing at a little grassy area, but still like right on the street, and her dog wasn't on leash. Saw my dog and like runs out into the middle of the road. So like I'm having to run out and like try and like block traffic, because the woman just stood there, and I'm just like, ugh. So I mean, anyway, so, like leash, like I don't know, something about like I've never really experienced that outside of like living here. I mean, I've seen it occasionally, but like here in Portland, I have seen so many off leash dogs where they're not supposed to be. So like hundreds, I feel like at this point, and it's like my heart is in my throat every time I see them, and I'm like, how are the owners not that way? And I'm like, oh yeah, like so many bad things can happen. But anyway, so this book was making me think of all the situations that nothing I've gotten myself in because I'm just walking on the street, random like or public parks or things like that. And so anyway, it was it was a bit harrowing to think about in my head. But this is like Beverly Cleary writes a lot of like charming children's books, and this is all like set in Oregon, and they end up going to the Oregon coast, and they're salmon fishing, and he's able to get this like gigantic salmon thanks to him and his dog, and like the dog ends up being he ends up being really thankful for his dog because he's constantly getting him in trouble all throughout the book until the very end. But although he loves his dogs throughout, he's just like frustrated with all the neighbors and things making complaints. Okay, so let me see here. And the other thing is like I have like my pictures on the iPad. For whatever reason, once I save them to my photos, I can't reorganize them. So it's really annoying having to like constantly go in and out. Let's see. I read for a book club group that were reading a bunch of middle grade books. We read Caddy Woodlawn by Carol Ryrie Brink. This is a reread from me, but we all talked about how it was giving us like Little House on the Prairie vibes because if you're following the time span of a year and they're like frontier. Set in Wisconsin, right near where Laura Ingalls Wilder started out in Pepin. And the author, the beginning of this book had an introduction talking about what inspired her to write this, because she was writing about her grandmother's generation. And so it talked about how the grandma, when she had finally wrote the book and she had shared it with her grandma was like, how did you write these people so clearly? Like you knew them, because these people, were gone by then, were far away or what have you. Like she never met them. The author never met them. And she's like, oh, Grandma, I grew up, you telling me these stories. And so I thought that aspect of that was very interesting to think about. But yeah, I highly recommend this book if you haven't read it, if you like children's books. And then let me see here. And then the other book, The Ghost in the Mirror by John Bellairs. This is book number 4. I want to say, yeah, 4. And I know me and Angie over at Angie in the Great World, we're supposed to do a live show, but things got delayed, so we're hoping to do it next week. And so I'm going to save my comments for that. But needless to say, I really liked this book. This series is all new to me, and I've enjoyed all of them so far. So looking forward to discussing it with her. Okay, so I think I rambled on long enough. I think that covers pretty much everything that I have here. Like looking around, yeah, guys, again, I have piles of books all over the place. But anyway, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, BookTube.